תקים וכולו מחמדים וכולו מחמדים וכולו מחמדים.
It's showtime.
Song of Songs, which according to almost a consensus of Jewish scholars, refers to the relationship between God and Israel and the church and Christ according to Christendom.
The Song of Solomon, listen, I mean no disrespect, but the argument tonight is not even a debate. I'm only doing it out of respect for Muslims who believe it, but it's not even a debate, to be candid.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
And as far as Song of Songs, Dr. Brand tries to play it down, but the Jews had a consensus, the Christians had a consensus that this is speaking about the allegorical meaning, the history of Israel and the Messiah, and so are the Christians. So all Dr. Brand is doing is mocking all these scholars. Why? Because he knows the minute he admits it's a prophecy, the Muslims will have a field day.
Let's take another moment on Song of Solomon. It's not a prophecy. Jews traditionally understand it as a love song about God and Israel, looking back at Israel's history. Okay? Christians read it as speaking about Jesus and the church, but when traditional Jews read it, they're looking at it as history. Read the Targum, the expansive Targum, which is a love song of God and Israel. So even if you want to try to apply it there, it goes back. It goes back, not forward.
Understand what just happened here. He's making the claim that Jews read this as something that happened in the past. It's history. It is not prophetic. It cannot speak about the future. And in the same breath, he says it refers to Jesus and the church, which was not existent at the time of the Song of Solomon. If you play the clip.
Christians read it as speaking about Jesus and the church, but when traditional Jews read it, they're looking at it as history.
Say that one more time.
Christians read it as speaking about Jesus and the church, but when traditional Jews read it, they're looking at it as history.
One more time.
If you want to try to apply it there, it goes back. It goes back, not forward.
One more time.
As speaking about Jesus and the church, Jesus and the church, it goes back, not forward. Jesus and the church, it goes back, not forward.
Okay.
Should we play Dr. Brown one more time where he says it's not a prophecy, or shall I just read this?
Yes.
It's not a prophecy. It's not a prophecy. It's not a prophecy.
Did you hear that? This is what Dr. Brown writes in volume 3, page 154. But you might say, so he's speaking about the Jews, not all of these references can be called messianic prophecies. Some of them are hardly messianic, while others are hardly prophecies. Now here's where it gets juicy. Actually, the New Testament authors, in keeping with the sentiments later expressed in the rabbinic writings, saw the whole of the Hebrew scriptures as pointing to King Messiah. Did you hear that? So basically, agreeing with the rabbis, the New Testament understood all of the Old Testament as pointing to Jesus, King Messiah. So is the Song of Songs part of the Old Testament or not?
It's not a prophecy.
Yeah, it is, according to.
Yes. So he's admitting here that the New Testament, forget the church fathers for now, the New Testament understood all of the Old Testament as pointing towards Jesus, which means what? The church fathers were correct in applying Song of Songs to Jesus as well. So why is he telling us now it's not a prophecy where he says the opposite to the Jews?
It's not a prophecy.
That's what you call double standards.
How come? What games are you people playing?
حكومة تكيم وخلو محمدين وخلو محمدين وخلو محمدين.
How many errors could I have exposed in one debate? That's the question.
Fascinating point.
So is that his own testimony?
This is his own book, volume 3, page 154.
So he's debating himself.
Basically, and the thing is, every slide I'm showing now, this is not something that, in case Christians say, oh, Zakir had to up his game after the debate. I had all of this with me at the debate, but because it was so fast-paced and that, as I mentioned in the debate, I'm not even going to touch my paper, so I worked off memory, but I had all of this ready. But this is the Art Scroll Tanakh series for Song of Songs. Now, Dr. Brand said that this is Jews only take it as speaking about the history, not about the future. And remember, I mentioned that Song of Songs chapter 5 speaks about the exile.
Song of Solomon, verse 7, confirms this during a period of exile. Verse 11 alludes to Daniel chapter 2 and Daniel 7, confirming he comes during the Roman exile and describes him, interestingly, as the purest Arabian gold.
Now, this is what they write in the introductory remarks, adapted from Rashi's introduction. So they adapted this introduction from Rashi, who's one of the biggest commentators in Judaism. They wrote, Solomon foresaw through the Holy Spirit that Israel is destined to suffer a series of exiles and will lament. A series of exiles. Not only was the Babylonian exile after the time of Solomon, but the Roman exile definitely was. And they're claiming, based on Rashi, that Solomon in the Song of Songs foresaw both exiles, which means they don't understand it as just speaking about the past. They understand Song of Songs as speaking about the past, the present, and the Messianic age.
But when traditional Jews read it, they're looking at it as history.
Did you hear that? How many errors could I have exposed in one debate? That's the question. Just one more quote from here. He also mentioned the Targum, which kind of surprised me because this is Dr. Brown's specialty. He's been debating with Jews since the 70s. So I didn't expect these type of errors from him.
Read the Targum, the expansive Targum, which is a love song of God and Israel.
But he said that the Targum as well understood it as the past. But this is what they write here. And I didn't even need this commentary for the Targum point because I mentioned in my debate with Dr. White 11 years back that the Targum understood it as messianic.
I knew you were going to find my name in the text, but can you find a passage that's got my description and mentions Birmingham too, Dr. White? And can you also show me the same passage where Jews were interpreting this as a prophet to come? I've got quotes that show that Jews seen this as a future person.
So this is what they write here. The Targum, this is based on chapter 8, verse number 2, where it says, I would lead you. They write the Targum interprets these words as being addressed to the Messiah in reference to the time of redemption. So the phrase in Song of Songs chapter 8, verse number 2, I will lead you, they go on to say it means, I would lead you, O King Messiah, and bring you up to my temple, and you will teach me to fear the Lord and to walk in his way. How many errors could I have exposed in one debate? That's the question. This is what Bruce Metzger writes. Its inclusion in the Jewish and Christian canon is due to its acceptance as an allegory of God's love for Israel or Christ's love for the church. Bruce Metzger is saying that's the reason it was accepted in the canon. If they understood it as literal, the literal love story that the Christians of today are saying.
This is Solomon's wife extolling the handsome king Solomon that she's going to be marrying. It's describing Solomon.
If they understood it as literal, the literal love story that the Christians of today are saying, they wouldn't have accepted it in the canon. Did you hear that?
It's not a prophecy.
How many errors could I have exposed in one debate? That's the question. And as Ellen F. Davis, she's mentioned, all of the ancient Jewish evidence we possess points to the interpretation of the Song of Songs as an allegory of the bridegroom God and his covenant with Israel. There is no competing view that has lived to see the light of day. So literally, they're throwing Dr. Brown's own quote under the bus about the New Testament understanding, the entire Hebrew Bible as speaking about the Messiah. They're throwing all the rabbis, they're throwing the church fathers, everything. Why? Because the Muslims have exposed them on this. Did you hear that? How many errors could I have exposed in one debate? That's the question.
And look, I don't mean insult in saying this, but the arguments are as weak as saying, I have a Christian friend named Mo, and he used to be very fat, but now he's slim. And you respond saying, he's not a Christian at all. No, he's Mo, who is now slim, so Muslim equals Muslim. It's that outlandish.
But then you want to joke with us Muslims, with all due respect. I think the joke's the other way around.
Christians read it as speaking about Jesus and the church. It's not a prophecy. It's not a prophecy.
The minute he admits it's a prophecy, the Muslims will have a field day.
This is what happens. Allah describes it to us in the Holy Quran. When truth is hurled against falsehood, it knocks out its brains. It knocks out its brains. It knocks out its brains.
Cowabunga.
I urge you to have the courage to follow the truth wherever it leads, because the stakes are very high.
وأوحينا إلى موسى أن ألق عصاك فإذا هي تلقف ما يأفكون فوقع الحق وبطل ما كانوا يعملون فغلبوا هنالك وانقلبوا صاغرين وألقي السحرة ساجدين قالوا آمنا برب العالمين رب موسى وهارون